Thanks, Shubho. The name's Munnish, but thank you so much.
Munnish, I beg your pardon, I'll correct it, Munnish, yeah.
A very good afternoon to everyone here. Can we just hear, because it's post-lunch, can we hear a big good afternoon for the panel here? Can we hear you all say that? That doesn't do. Once again, all at once. Okay, great. A very good afternoon to you. So, it's great to be at this, sustainability conclave which BW Business World has put together. We here on the panel certainly believe that sustainability is now the lifeline for all humanity, and there is no taking away from it. So without wasting any further time, what we'd like to do today is have each of the panelists provide a 1 to 1.5 minute introduction about themselves. We will then have one specific question that we will actually ask each of the panelists, and then there'll be a common question that we'll ask. And if we have more time, there'll be cross questions that we'll ask amongst ourselves. I hope that's fine. So I think all of you are familiar with the reason that sustainability is today an issue, right? Whether you've heard of LA fires, whether you've heard of droughts across the world, whether you've heard of heat waves. I personally come from a very mixed background. I've actually come from financial services into media and entertainment. And the reason, and I thank Dr. Batra for it, but one of the reasons that he sort of may have thought of me is I've been very active on social media to speak about the challenges that this country is facing. I migrated from New York, Geneva, and London in and around 2000 into Mumbai. When I came in to the city was very different. As the chapters of 2005, 2006, and 2007 began, one could actually see the air pollution completely sort of, the air quality deteriorate and air pollution set in. Heat waves that we talked about earlier were now a reality. And that's only one city, which is Bombay, but, or Mumbai. But across, like we said, across the world, the challenges exist. So we have with us, let's actually first go to the first speaker here, the first panelist, S. Sunil Kumar. He is the country president for Henkel Adhesives Technologies India. If you could just say a few words to introduce yourself. Thank you.
No, thanks very much, Munnish. Really a pleasure for me to be here amidst all of you, and also the congratulations to all the panel members who spoke before. Just to introduce myself, I'm Sunil Kumar, as Munnish mentioned, country president for Henkel India. Just for people who may or may not know about Henkel, Henkel is almost 145 years young organization, at the end of the day. And we have been in adhesive space and also in the FMCG space. From my side, I think I've been in Mumbai for 10 years. Maybe one fun part, because Munnish also mentioned that might be good to have for all the members, is to know us better. Recently I've taken up to a bit of Bollywood singing. Hopefully, that would be nice at some point, not today.
Thank you for that, Sunil. Very nice. Chitra Byregowda is the head of ESG for Persistent Systems. We'd love to have you introduce yourself.
Thanks, Munnish. I've been in this field for the last 25 years. I've done my environmental engineering. So I did not have any other career choice other than sustainability. So I've breathed, lived and earned for sustainability. So I also take care of all the ESG elements, which is the diversity and inclusion, the disclosures, communications related to ESG, and corporate governance and CSR. So integrating all of this into one function is what I've led in all the organizations. So I've worked in, before Persistent, I worked with Wipro, IBM, Mindtree, GE, and I was apprentice at BEML. So this is my spectrum of sustainability, what I do every day.
Thank you, Chitra. For those of you who don't know Persistent, it's a public company. It's valued at over 10 billion. It began operations in 1990 by a founder called Mr. Deshpande. And he founded the company with only $21,000. And his first fundraise was $1 million, then it was 18 million, and today it's over a $10 billion company. If you don't know it, you should look it up. Henkel, which Sunil is part of, has been at the forefront of innovation, and you're going to hear about the innovations from him, but world-class German company. So over to you now, Tejashree.
Yeah. Hello, thank you everybody. Thank you for having me here. I'm Tejashree Joshi. I lead environmental sustainability at Godrej Enterprise Group. Again, combining what both of you mentioned, the group is over 125 years young again. And just like what you mentioned, you know, even I am an environmental engineer, so no choice but to be in sustainability. But unlike what you mentioned, I had been with the organization for over 20 years. I have literally seen the transition on sustainability that my company has taken, although it has been pioneering initiatives on sustainability for a very long time in Indian industry. But we've seen the transition as the world has moved, as the country has moved on this particular aspect of business. Fortunately, being part of the group which has been always kind of more proactive on this than getting pushed because of either regulations or any other mandates. So even today when we drive sustainability, it's not because there is a BRSR mandate. We are an unlisted company, but all because we believe as an organization in taking those steps.
It's incredible. I mean, on her LinkedIn profile, she sits amongst plants. She runs the Good and Green Sustainability Initiative, which is zero waste to landfill, carbon neutrality, positive water balance. And Godrej doesn't need to be introduced, but the point is that they touch over 750 million lives out of Bharat, India. So thank you for being here. Hitesh? Sorry, yeah, I think it's a little, so Hitesh, please, go ahead.
Thank you, Munnish. So I represent, I'm Hitesh, and I represent HP Incorporated, and we are largely into information communication technology products, primarily computing and printing devices. We are headquartered in US, and I manage the sustainability operations and compliance for the South Asia region, with Geo mandate being this part. So unlike Chitra and Tejashree, I am a computer science engineer, so I had very much reason to stay as a systems engineer, but it was my passion which drove me into this profession as a sustainability or an ESG professional. And I would actually attribute it to something which got etched during my childhood, so when we grew up in family, something which really stood out and stayed with me for long was hearing our elders say that the only thing which is waste in this world is the word waste in a dictionary. So I think, being a Marwadi, you see value in everything. And hence I think that mindset kind of helped me grow and work towards bringing in regenerative spirit in systems which are otherwise considered as extractive. So if we today talk about, let's say, industrial system as a reason for climate change, I take that as a challenge on myself to work and bring that change within, to convert and transform that extractive or so-called extractive or exploitative system into a more regenerative one. So that's where I come from. And
Hitesh, where did you grow up? Where did you grow up?
So it's a mix of, I've been a boarder, so since I was like 4 years, Paradise Panchkani, that was where I grew up. And I am from Jodhpur as my native, so yeah.
Great,
A
thank
mix
you.
of desert and the paradise of the world.
Thank you. So HP Inc. Is valued at over 30 billion. It's the second largest personal computer vendor company in the world, ahead of Dell as of 2024. We have Sandeep here, who needs no introduction. He was the BW Business World Sustainability Officer of the Year in 2023, and he's part of Tech Mahindra.
Sure. Thanks, Munnish, and Priyanshi, where you are, thank you. Thank you for getting me here today. So my name is Sandeep Chandna. I've been with Tech Mahindra for almost 17 years. My journey started with incidentally. My boss calls me to his cabin and says that, Sandeep, there's a change for you. Now, change is what? You will be Chief Sustainability Officer. This is 2006, 2007. most pampered means I was from an IT background, so most pampered people who would never switch off their PCs, or light was never a kind of a priority. If you're driving, you will be, even if you're parked, your vehicle will be on for whatever reason. That changed my whole life. Now, first was that when I went outside and asked, what am I supposed to do in this? And, the chief operating officer kind of told me that, Sandeep, you need to plant trees. I said, a C-suite, okay, fine, good job. Then somebody said that it's, the CSR part of it. So I went to the CSR head saying that, okay, I'll be working with you. So, you're all aware that 2% of the profits have to be used for CSR. So he said, everything is fine, but don't touch this 2%. So journey started from there, nowhere, and last 16 years, 17 years, we have been able to put a mark, some of the best practices and learnings. And now, from last year onwards, we have started our own ESG offering. So whatever pains I have gone through in last 16 to 17 years, I don't want other CSOs to go through that. So I've simplified the processes, built up systems, technologies around it. Another important aspect, is that it is a complex subject as ESG. But if somebody simplifies it, something very simple we were discussing was about scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. I was just asking, one of the interns or, one of the college students here, you have to come for an internship. First is that you should understand the concepts. Give me 15 categories of scope 3. So basic concepts, and that is where my role has been in terms of either a thought leadership or bringing in the technology as such. Thank you, Munnish.
Thanks, Sandeep. Very helpful. So Tech Mahindra is over a $16 billion company, and he's also ranked 14th in the CSO by Sustainability Magazine. So let's begin this session with asking the first question to Sunil. Henkel is a pioneer in sustainable solutions. Could you share how Henkel balances technology advancements with environmental responsibility?
Right. I try to keep this sharp and succinct, Munnish, in the interest of time and also ensuring that, everybody gets more time on to speak. From a Henkel perspective, I think let me start with what's our purpose. Henkel purpose is pioneers at heart for the good of generations. So, to a large extent, the value system that we have been thinking always has been not about today, but how can we be also contributing, keeping the future in perspective. And the core of that becomes sustainability. And what we have been doing quite a bit is, just to give you a flavor of our sustainability ambition framework that we have called out very clearly, what is the milestones that we want to achieve by 2030 on scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. And by 2045, we want to achieve 90% on reduction on scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. Because I think as all of us know, and as sustainability ambassadors here, scope 3 is the largest portion, where it becomes so difficult to influence, at the end of the day. And Henkel has been monitoring right from 2010. If you go to the website and see the sustainability reports, we have been calling out on a reduction of 3% year on year on energy, water and waste, immaterial of whatever has been our growth every year. So if you really think about it on a cumulative basis, that's been an immense big possibility that we are doing. Going back to your question, I think the key part is we have been continuously innovating and we have been proactively investing in technologies that will help in bringing down on the overall sustainability part. So key is how do you proactively invest, keeping innovation with speed, and with that you are able to bring the sustainability practices at the end of the day. I'll take a stop here, Munnish.
Thanks, that's really useful. Thank you, Sunil. We'll come back and circle with some more questions there. So just going now to Chitra. Chitra, at Persistent, how do you integrate environmental, social, and governance principles into technology development processes?
Thanks, Munnish. So first and foremost is, at the leadership level, what is the commitment we have? So we have a ESG committee at the board level. We have independent directors. We have subcommittees on the sustainability forums, where the team goes to the board and then we talk about our progress against the KPIs. So why this is very important is, you just don't discuss business at the board level, you also discuss the softer aspects, So how are we actually bringing a balance between the people, planet and profit while you're also, increasing your profitability. So this is one major impact what we have seen. That is where the integration comes. So the CEO who sits in our meetings, do ask this, at what cost we are doing this? How are we integrating this into our business? What is the value add we are bringing it to our customers? So if Persistent has become carbon neutral today, which means we are helping our customers to reduce their scope 3 emissions, because we are suppliers to them. So this is a simple analogy I can bring here is, the more you do, the more you integrate sustainability into business, you're helping your customers, and then, the story is very long. So small little things, whatever we are doing today, just the simple bottle, right, the Bisleri bottle on the table. When we wanted to reduce our scope 3 emissions, so we looked at what are the things which is contributing to the waste. So in IT company, you don't have much of an hazardous waste other than e-waste. You have driven by the EPR principle, so that gets, recycled in a science or the regulatory way. But these kind of things, when we looked at, when we were using the PET bottles, we converted into these kind of bottles, but it doesn't have an end mile of recycling. Now what do you do with these bottles? So we converted this opportunity into a CSR where we bring our volunteers to paint these bottles. We give these bottles to an NGO who actually gives it to the people on the roads whom you see, they put a light inside that and sell it just for 100 rupees or 50 rupees. So everything has an opportunity. So whether it is directly impacting your business or directly impacting somebody else. So this is how the integration can happen whether at a large level or at the grassroots level. So I'll take a pause here and over to you.
Thanks, Chitra. Very helpful. Just in the interest of time, we wanted to have one rapid question, so we'll try and go a bit more quickly. Tejashree, at Godrej, you're a leader in integrating circular economy principles into your operations. Could you share key innovations that have successfully balanced sustainability with business growth?
Sure, thank you. I think our framework on sustainability, what we call as good and green, essentially talks of one important pillar is how do you really make your products more sustainable, what we call as good products, good and green products. Now the word itself indicates that you need to innovate and move your entire product line on a journey where they are more sustainable and environment conscious, along with being good for the society. And then all the tools that come into play to help that happens, and from a life cycle assessment to looking at going back to the drawing board to look at the design aspects. So it's best done at the design stage rather than retrofitting a product to be more greener. So that's where it starts, and innovation plays a very important role today along with what we talk about digitization, because data is the key for driving sustainability. It really gives you insights on every aspect of your processes to bring in those more efficiencies, reduce wastages, plug that wastages in time so that resource waste is reduced. To do that, it also leads you to evaluate various aspects in terms of how can you make your entire process of manufacturing less impacting in terms of upcycling materials, or look at alternate materials in terms of bringing circularity, and that's what we talk about. I'll give you one example what we have done, and I think one of the success stories is, we all know, particularly being in a city like Mumbai, and we experienced that during the monsoons in terms of clogging of drains, and because of which the whole flooding of the city. And a big contributor to this, along with the municipal solid waste, is the construction and demolition waste. Because the whole city is upgrading, there's a lot of construction waste which is generated. What we have adapted, and one of the first in the industry, is to look at how the concrete waste is recycled back as a raw material for construction and building products. So from a concrete waste, how do you convert it into construction blocks, which again go back into buildings, which is a true example of circularity. So from where it started at the point of demolition, it goes back as a product. That's one example, and we have a plant over here which demonstrates a use of recycled concrete materials and blocks in various building applications and building blocks. So not only blocks, it can go as a raw material, as a recycled aggregate into mixes of various products. That's a great example, because what we have seen is the whole product has at least 35% lesser GHG emissions impact because of the nature of the material, which is a recycled material and not a virgin extracted material. That's one example. Likewise, I think from each of our businesses, there are 14 businesses under Godrej Enterprise Group, and each of our businesses are innovating on all products to make them more sustainable in terms of resource use, in terms of its impact during manufacturing, and at the use phase up to the end of the product.
Fantastic. Great. Great to hear that. Hitesh, just moving on to you. HP Inc. has set ambitious sustainability goals. Could you share how you're leveraging technology to reduce carbon footprint and again promote circular practices across South Asia?
Sure. So I think it all starts by realizing the fact that sustainability, if it has to be integrated, has to be seen as a systemic phenomenon. And because it has intertwined and interplaying factors to be taken care. So I think the very baseline of it is how ambitious you are committed, like what you mentioned. And that's where HP has actually put the ambitious target of net zero across the value chain, scope 1, 2, 3 by 2040. And this again comes as a science-based target initiative verified, which kind of conveys that this is not just any other goal, but which has the potential to create a dent in the larger climate action or climate change work for the worldwide. Now, with that in mind and with the systemic phenomenon, our entire approach is more value chain based. So HP being at the center of a value chain which has sourcing of rare earth material on its upstream, has technology in the hands of individuals and enterprises on the downstream. Now, we take that as a responsible position in using technology in making sure that we source from alternative raw material. We look for opportunities to use, let's say, artificial intelligence to know that what is the transparency across this supply chain, So avoiding, let's say, conflict minerals and things like those. So I won't get deeper into that. And on the downstream, we work in making sure that what we deliver is not a computer or a printer to our customers, but a computing or a printing to our customers. So we remodel our entire business ecosystem to move away from transaction-based model to a service-led model, which requires us to actually work in our midstream as well, because you need to actually revisit your entire talent acquisition and talent retention to move away from this kind of a model. So it's actually a value chain phenomenon, and it's yielding good results. So we are like 1/3 on this journey to reduce our value chain emissions. By 2023, we actually reduced it to nearly 30%. So we are very well on way to achieve it by 2040.
Great, Hitesh. You are game changers, so no doubt about it. Sandeep, coming to you, I actually had a question for you which was different, but here's a headline for BW Business World. Science-based target initiatives have now approved Tech Mahindra, and you're the 13th company to be approved globally. I mean, you're making Bharat India proud yet once again. Could you talk about that? And again, in the interest of time, you have about a minute, but you can just touch upon the key bullet points of what you've done. That'd be great. Thank you.
Sure. Hitesh also spoke about science-based targets. It is a centralized agency which looks at how you are going to look at your net zero. They look at it very scientifically. And yesterday, publicly, we have announced that our net zero targets have been formally approved. From India, I think so there are total, including SMEs, there are about 18, and if you look at companies, about 13. So it's a difficult task, and we said about scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, every data is being monitored from that perspective. It gives you a vision that you are going on a right track. That is one thing. Second is, how fast are you going to look at it? And is there a in-between dipstick that what you really need to look at it? Are you looking at renewable energies? Are you looking at optimizations? Are you looking at technology? So all that aspects gives you a roadmap how to meet your targets.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, so we have about 5 minutes left. What we want to do is maybe literally a minute each. What will be useful for us is to understand from you as a common question. You can either talk about your typical day, which will be quite interesting because you run very diverse businesses and diverse geographies in some cases. Or two, what was a challenge that you actually had internally where one situation came up, and you don't have to mention the client nor any details thereof, but what was it that was the challenge within the sustainability implications, and how did you deal with balancing that with the business group that you were dealing with? Sunil, if we can begin with you.
Yeah, perfect. Very good question, Munnish. Maybe I try to take the first part, which is more on day to day in a month or whichever. I think I strongly believe in role modeling. I think this is important, and you need to be genuine about this whole part. So in the interest of the subject of sustainability, one or two things which I personally started off was, let's say we have every 2 months town halls that we conduct. The entire India is part of it, and I'm sure everybody does many town halls. But I was very interested to bring a lot of success stories that people are doing on sustainability and give them a platform, for them to showcase what they're doing. And it doesn't matter, about whether, in whichever format they want to do. They come and speak, they want to send a video, they want to speak in local language. India is such a diverse country, as we know, local language, whichever way it is. But the whole idea is you keep sharing, and success rubs success, as all of us know, and giving those role modeling part from your side and giving platforms to people to share sustainability success stories is maybe one example I would like to share as such.
Thanks, Sunil. A lot of young people here, and what you should know is Sunil's company is one of Bharat India's first plant-based feedstock. They've created a product which is a first plant-based feedstock for consumer electronics assembly. So they've literally sort of redefined, there's an eco bucket that they've actually innovated. So innovation is at the center of Henkel. And again, thank you for sharing the insights, Sunil. If we can go to Sandeep, and you could choose either or for the questions.
So, the biggest challenge that most of the companies today face is around the mind change set, because it needs a full transition from the fixed mindsets that, these are the ways the things have to be done. So getting that sustainability involved and the leadership involved into that becomes the most difficult challenge. And that is a place where you have to bring in the best ways to see how the profitability, how the operations would really look at. So that is the biggest challenge which most of the companies face today.
Got it. Thank you. Tejashree?
I think for us, the real challenge is how do you translate the very ambitious senior management, top management's view on sustainability at the ground level. It's the other way around. Probably people need to convince their senior management on sustainability. Here we need to translate those actions on ground. And with a diverse group of over 14 businesses across around 30 manufacturing locations, how does each one of them contribute to overall organization's sustainability targets is the big challenge. And that's where, cross function and cross location learning platforms help. And that's what we created, that every fortnight we have a sharing platform where not only the progress is tracked, but best practices are shared. Technology
so this is across India?
It's
or across the world?
It's across India,
Okay.
Across all our locations and businesses, sub-businesses.
Got it, thank you.
So that's how we have
Got it.
actually addressed the
Thank
challenge
you.
and the opportunity.
Hitesh?
Okay, so my day looks very exciting, but I won't bore the audience on my excitement. So I'll pick the challenge one. So I think one common challenge, and this is more systemic in nature, is when my customers ask me that given that now you're making your laptops using waste PET bottles, why don't you make this cheaper for us? So I think it's not easy to explain the investment which goes into creating a supply chain of your own. So today, if I have to build a laptop which brings in plastic waste from the plastic rag picking community, there's a huge community investment to establish my supply chain by, organizing this unorganized sector. So there's a huge investment. But then I think that question, when it came in, it help us to create a solution in-house using artificial intelligence to create a total cost of ownership of a product, where we are able to now bring in factors of how, let's say, when I bring in the plastic waste, or let's say the used cooking oil from the restaurants to build the laptops, what kind of total cost it is total net impact it's bringing on the ecosystem, and that how do we attribute it through a third-party assurance to our customers when they make a procurement.
Got it.
So I think that's
Very, very
how we
useful. Yeah.
transform.
Thanks, Hitesh. Okay. Chitra?
Yeah, I can see
No,
the
we have
red-
time. Don't worry. We have
yeah,
time.
Red screen on the time's up, okay. So I don't want to talk about challenges, but I would like to stress on the opportunities. Why wait till 2050 while you have your science-based target verified, approved by SBTi, and become net zero by 2050? Take small little steps what you can do today, right? Like for example, though we have signed up for net zero, we said we will do carbon neutrality, balance, and bring a neutral there. Small little things to look at opportunities. Simple thing is, because PatCare is there, I want to mention that we are associated with PatCare to, recycle our sanitary waste, which is because in our offices, you have 30% women, and you can imagine the amount of sanitary waste we generate, right? And then look for such opportunities where it can add value to balance the entire ESG aspects. So go for it.
Thanks, Chitra. I'm going to encourage each of you on your social media handles. I know you must be posting on Instagram, Facebook, etc. A lot of your personal times, but time has come actually to put a lot of focus on sustainability. I'm in my 50s and I've lived across a number of cities globally. Let me just tell you a stark reality. When I was doing the research for this, thanks to Dr. Batra, I came across a DW News story, and I do a lot of news investigation, if I can call it that, from time to time. But here's the story. It seems Google set up a data center in one part of Chile, and the story is about a year, 7-8 months old, I think, where one data center was consuming 168 liters of water per second. Okay, now the irony is that the area where they were doing it was actually drought-driven. Okay, so now they've gone into AWG and everything else, and which is atmospheric waste generation. But the point being that this is the stark reality of what we are consuming. So every time that we're actually sort of doing a search on any engines, there is consumption happening at the other end. And yes, renewables is going to be there to support us, but is it really? And how far will we take climate change initiatives for granted? I was at a Gautam Singhania event, again, thanks to Dr. Batra, a couple of days ago, and we had the Dean of USC. And I asked him, I said, with all the focus on crypto, which is becoming sort of the de facto, barbell strategy, if you can call it, to de-risk the dollar, the amount of climate change impact. And he just turned around and said, you know what? Unfortunately, climate change doesn't seem to be a priority for the US anymore. And I agree with a lot of Trump's policies, but this is one where I think it's a stark reality. Sustainability is here to stay. We all are part of that change. So when you walk out of this room, try and influence at least 10 more people so that there is a movement, at least out of Bharat, India, that we stand for the next generations and to provide for them by leaving a sustainable future. Thank you.